It began on a crisp October morning in Willow Creek, a quiet American town where maple leaves painted the streets in shades of amber, red, and gold. Emma Davis stood in her kitchen, hands wrapped around a mug of lukewarm coffee, when she heard it, a sharp, deliberate tap 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 on the window behind her. At first, she thought it was a branch brushing against the glass. She turned, squinting, and froze. There outside the kitchen window, a stray dog stared at her. Its fur was scruffy and matted, streaked with mud, and its amber eyes glimmered with something almost human, an intelligence, a desperation. It didn't bark or whine. It only tapped its paw on the glass again, 3 times, like a code, a warning, a plea. Emma's heart leapt into her throat. Her 6-year-old son, Noah, had been missing for 2 days. Police, neighbors, and volunteers had scoured the woods, searched abandoned buildings, and questioned every witness. The town was on edge. Every parent's nightmare had become a horrifying reality. Yet here was this dog, appearing at her window like it knew something she didn't. "Hello," she whispered, stepping closer. The dog tilted its head, tapping its paw again. Then it turned slowly, its gaze fixed on the edge of the forest behind her house. A shiver ran down her spine. Emma's chest tightened. She had noticed this dog the day Noah disappeared, lingering at the tree line near the creek where he had been playing. She thought nothing of it at the time, just another stray wandering the woods. But now, with Noah gone, the dog's presence felt like a sign, a message carved in the silence of the morning. She hesitated should she call the police again, but something inside her whispered, "This dog knows something, follow it." Grabbing her coat, she stepped onto the porch. The dog didn't run away. Instead, it turned toward the forest, pausing as if to check whether she was really coming. Emma's heart pounded violently. The air smelled of wet leaves and moss, the kind of sharp, earthy scent that made her stomach churn. "Okay," she whispered to herself, "I'm following you." The dog moved forward, its pace quick but measured. Emma followed, pushing through the thick underbrush, branches scratching her arms and face. Each step she took felt heavier than the last, weighed down by fear, hope, and a growing sense of dread. Suddenly the dog stopped, its ears pricked, eyes scanning the trees. Emma froze, realizing she could hear something faint in the distance, a sound she couldn't place. A whimper, a breath, her pulse hammered in her ears. She bent forward to peer through the undergrowth. There it was, a small, blue sneaker, half buried in the moss. Emma's stomach dropped, bile rising. Her knees nearly gave out as she reached down and grasped it. It was Noah's. She could recognize the scuffed toe, the faint cartoon pattern worn from hours of play. Her hand shook violently as she pressed the shoe to her chest. Tears blurred her vision. This was proof that he was here, somewhere, maybe still alive, but where and with whom? The dog stepped closer, nudging her gently with its muddy snout. It growled softly, a low, throaty warning. Emma's gaze followed its line of sight, toward a deeper part of the forest where shadows clung to twisted trees and fallen logs. A sudden rustle made her flinch. Someone was moving just beyond the trees. A figure appeared, blurred through the branches. The man was tall, wearing a dark jacket, dragging something heavy across the ground. Emma's chest tightened, her breath caught, and then the dog barked once, sharply. The man's head jerked in her direction. His eyes narrowed, he paused. Emma swallowed hard, the world seemed to shrink around her. The dog looked back at her, tapped its paw on the ground twice, and turned toward the figure again. Emma understood without thinking. She had to follow. The man hadn't seen her yet. But as she stepped forward, a faint, terrified cry cut through the forest air. Her heart froze. It sounded like Noah. Emma's legs trembled as she plunged deeper into the forest, branches clawing at her arms, leaves sticking to her damp coat. The blue sneaker felt heavy in her hand, a chilling weight of proof that Noah was still here somewhere. Her ears strained for the faintest sound, a whisper, a laugh, anything that could guide her. Then she heard it again, a soft whimper carried on the wind, almost drowned by rustling leaves. The stray dog darted through the underbrush with uncanny precision, weaving between trees and ducking under low-hanging branches. Its amber eyes gleamed in the scattered sunlight, unwavering and focused. Emma followed, each step sinking into the damp earth, heart hammering like a drum. She whispered Noah's name, trembling with hope and fear. The dog stopped abruptly beside a fallen log. Its body was tense, ears erect, tail stiff. Emma crouched behind it, her breath catching in her throat. Up ahead, partially hidden in the shadows, a tall man moved with slow, deliberate motions. He was dragging a dark, heavy object across the forest floor, a tarp, she realized with horror. Her stomach turned. Emma froze, her mind raced. Is that Noah, or is it someone else? The world seemed to shrink to just the man and the object. Her fingers tightened around the blue sneaker, nails digging into her palms. She pressed herself against the log, trying to disappear into the shadows, but the dog's growl pierced the silence, low, threatening, a warning she could feel in her bones. The man stopped and muttered under his breath something about moving before nightfall. Emma's throat went dry. He wasn't alone, or maybe he didn't act alone. She couldn't tell which was worse. She swallowed hard, her pulse pounding like a jackhammer. The dog nudged her lightly, its amber eyes locked on hers as if saying, "Stay hidden. Wait, watch." Emma's knees shook. She had no weapon, no plan, only a desperate mother's instinct. She pressed herself closer to the log, barely breathing. Suddenly a branch snapped behind her. Emma froze. The man's head jerked toward the sound, scanning the trees with sharp, calculating eyes. "Who's there?" he barked, voice rough. Panic surged in Emma's chest. The dog growled louder, stepping between her and the direction of the sound. Its teeth gleamed, a feral warning. Emma bit her lip to keep from screaming, heart thundering in her chest. The man cursed under his breath, muttering, and began moving again, this time faster, dragging the tarp toward a dense part of the forest she hadn't noticed before. Emma's hands were shaking violently. She had to follow. Her feet moved automatically, guided by the dog's silent commands. The forest seemed endless, each tree identical, each shadow deeper and more menacing. Leaves rustled like whispers of unseen dangers. Her mind raced with images of Noah, frightened, alone, trapped. She had to find him. She had to. The dog suddenly stopped at a clearing. Emma's eyes widened. There, half buried in moss and mud, was another one of Noah's belongings, his small red backpack, its zipper slightly open. Emma's chest constricted. It was a sign, proof he had been here. She had followed the right trail. A low, guttural sound made her flinch. The man was back, closer this time, moving quickly toward the clearing. Emma pressed herself against a tree, heart hammering, hands trembling. She could hear him breathing, could feel his anger radiating through the forest. The dog barked sharply once, twice, a warning. Emma took a deep, shuddering breath, whispering, "I see you, Noah, I'm coming." The man paused suddenly, cocking his head as if sensing her presence. A shadow shifted. Emma's stomach dropped. She wasn't alone in this forest anymore. And then she heard it, a faint, desperate cry, almost drowned by the wind. "Noah." Her heart stopped. She dropped to her knees, pressing herself closer to the ground. The dog stepped in front of her, growling, ready to defend, ready to lead. Emma's eyes followed the dog as it turned, tapping its paw twice, urging her forward. She swallowed hard. Somewhere in the shadows of the forest, her son was calling for her. Emma crouched behind a thick oak, branches scratching at her arms and face as her gaze fixed on the dark figure moving through the underbrush. The man was tall, broad-shouldered, and deliberate in his movements. He dragged something heavy, the tarp she had glimpsed earlier, each step producing a harsh, grating sound against the forest floor. Her chest tightened. The world had shrunk to him, the tarp, and the unbearable thought of what, or who, might be underneath it. The stray dog remained by her side, growling low, teeth bared, its amber eyes locked on the man. Emma clutched Noah's blue sneaker against her chest, a fragile lifeline. She whispered her son's name under her breath, hopping against hope that he was still alive, still nearby. The man muttered under his breath, a cold, chilling murmur. Emma couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable, authority mixed with menace. Her stomach churned. He's organized. He knows exactly what he's doing. Her pulse raced as panic and determination collided inside her. The dog suddenly stepped forward, tapping its paw on a fallen log, two sharp, deliberate knocks. Emma stiffened. The signal was clear. It wanted her to move. But move where? Into deeper darkness. She had no choice. Her feet carried her forward, following the dog's careful guidance as though it could navigate the forest blindfolded. The man paused abruptly. Emma froze. He tilted his head, sensing something. Her heart lurched. Could he hear her, see her? Every instinct screamed for her to run, but she knew she had to stay. The dog's growl grew louder, resonating through the trees like a warning bell. Then a sound, a faint, high-pitched whimper, cut through the forest, almost swallowed by rustling leaves. Emma's breath hitched. Noah, her son, was alive. She had to get to him before the man noticed her. The man muttered again, glancing over his shoulder. Emma's stomach dropped as he raised his head, scanning the forest. Her hands gripped the sneaker tighter, nails digging into her palms. The dog bared its teeth, stepping protectively between her and the approaching threat. The man's gaze sharpened. "Who's there?" he barked, voice harsh and threatening. Emma pressed herself against a thick tree trunk, barely daring to breathe. Her chest felt like it would burst, adrenaline pumping violently through her veins. The dog growled louder this time, a deep, warning rumble that seemed to shake the forest floor. The man cursed, muttering under his breath, and began dragging the tarp faster, disappearing briefly behind a thicket. Emma exhaled slowly, but only for a moment. A sudden snap echoed behind her. The man whirled around instantly, gun in hand. Panic surged. Emma's knees buckled. She felt trapped, exposed, and utterly powerless. The dog stepped between her and the sound, hackles raised, growling fiercely. Its loyalty and courage were palpable, a living shield. Emma knew she had to act. Her mind raced for a plan, for an escape, for a way to reach Noah. She pressed herself closer to the ground, moving silently along the forest floor, guided by the dog's careful nudges. Every rustle, every crack of a twig sent shivers of fear down her spine. Ahead, she spotted the tarp again, half hidden by fallen branches. Emma's pulse thundered as the realization hit her. Noah had to be under it. She whispered, "Hang on, baby, I'm coming." The dog let out a low, commanding bark and darted ahead, circling around the man, forcing him to glance over his shoulder again. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she edged closer to the tarp, praying, hopping, terrified. The man took a step forward, then froze. His eyes narrowed, scanning the shadows, sensing her presence but unable to pinpoint it. Emma's fingers trembled around the sneaker, her heart threatening to explode. Then a faint whimper pierced the tense silence, unmistakably Noah's. Emma's blood ran cold and then burned with fierce urgency. The dog barked sharply, signaling her to move. Emma inhaled, steeling herself. This was it. She had found the trail. But before she could step fully into the clearing, the man lifted his head and locked eyes on the shifting shadows behind the trees. A flash of panic crossed his face. Emma froze, and in that instant she realized the confrontation was about to begin. The man had noticed her. Emma's lungs burned as she scrambled through the thick forest, branches clawing at her arms and face, leaves slick beneath her boots. Each step felt heavier than the last, adrenaline pushing her forward while fear threatened to paralyze her. The stray dog moved beside her like a shadow, its amber eyes sharp, muscles coiled, ever alert to the danger lurking behind the trees. Emma clutched Noah's blue sneaker, now damp with dew and dirt, as if it were a lifeline tethering her to hope. She tripped over a root, nearly falling face first into the muddy ground, but the dog's paw nudged her back upright. Its growl vibrated through the clearing, a warning, a command, a guide. Emma followed, heart hammering, every nerve screaming that they were close, terrifyingly close to Noah. Suddenly, the forest floor dipped sharply. Emma stumbled and tumbled into a shallow ravine, the damp leaves cushioning her fall but not her panic. She hit the ground with a hard thud, breath catching in her throat. The dog leapt down beside her, sniffing, growling low as its gaze swept the darkened trees. Emma's chest heaved. Where am I? What trap has the forest set this time? The man's voice cracked through the woods behind her. I know someone's out here. Whoever you are, show yourself. Panic sliced through Emma's mind. She pressed herself against the mossy earth, heart pounding, trembling violently. The dog crouched beside her, hackles raised, teeth bared. It was a wall of ferocity that somehow gave her the courage to move. Above her, a shadow shifted. The man had stopped at the edge of the ravine, scanning the darkness, gun glinting in the slivers of sunlight that pierced the trees. Emma's stomach twisted violently. If he saw her, if he aimed at her, she wouldn't survive the shot. She pressed her face into the dirt, praying he wouldn't notice the faint rustle she made moving forward. The dog nudged her arm insistently, as if urging her to follow. Emma hesitated, then rose slowly on shaky knees, inching after it. The path ahead was narrow, twisting between ancient pines whose roots clawed through the earth. Every step felt like stepping into a trap, but the dog moved with confident precision, guiding her silently through the shadows. Ahead, Emma spotted something that made her heart stop, a small handprint on a moss-covered rock smudged with fresh dirt. It was the size of Noah's tiny hands, unmistakable. She sank to her knees, fingers brushing over the impression, tears blurring her vision. He had been here, he was close. Suddenly, the underbrush ahead rustled violently. The man emerged, a dark silhouette among the pines, dragging the tarp with unnatural force. Emma's heart froze. He hadn't given up, hadn't abandoned the hunt. The dog let out a low, menacing growl, stepping between Emma and the approaching danger. Its gaze locked on the man, unwavering. The dog wasn't just protecting her, it was challenging him. Emma felt a surge of gratitude and awe, marveling at the loyalty and courage of the animal that had appeared in her life when all hope seemed lost. The man cursed, muttering under his breath, moving closer, eyes scanning the forest. Emma's pulse raced. Every instinct screamed for her to run, but her legs were like lead. She had to stay, had to follow, had to save Noah. Then a faint sound reached her ears, a high-pitched, trembling whimper. Her stomach dropped, heart racing faster than ever. It was Noah, her son. She pressed forward, voice shaking. Noah, I'm coming. The dog barked sharply twice, urging her onward. Emma moved with desperate determination, pushing through brambles and roots. Every shadow seemed alive, every sound a threat. And then she saw it, a narrow, dark opening in the earth, half hidden beneath a tangle of vines and fallen leaves. The metal of a storm shelter door gleamed dully, rusted but intact. The dog pawed at it frantically, growling, urging her closer. Emma's hands shook as she reached for the handle. Her heart pounded violently. She pressed her ear to the cold metal. At first nothing, then a faint thump. A weak, trembling whimper. "Noah," she whispered, voice cracking. Another thump. Emma's knees buckled. She pressed herself against the door, tears streaming down her face. The dog yipped, whining softly, then nudged her again, urging her forward. She swallowed hard, her fingers trembling. She knew she had to open it, whatever lay beyond that door. But before she could act, a deafening, echoing sound ripped through the forest, a man's voice, angry, furious, and armed. "Get out here now." Emma froze. They weren't alone anymore. Emma's knees hit the cold, damp ground as she peered into the narrow opening in the earth. The storm-shelter door, half buried under years of dirt, moss, and leaves, seemed impossibly small, yet it was the only clue to Noah's whereabouts. The stray dog pawed at the door frantically, growling, a low rumble vibrating through the forest floor, urging her to act. Emma pressed her hand against the rusted metal, heart hammering, sweat mixing with tears on her face. She took a deep, trembling breath and whispered, "Noah, I'm coming." The faint thumps from inside grew louder, deliberate, almost rhythmic, a fragile heartbeat of hope that made her chest ache. Another thump, then a weak, quivering whimper. "Yes, yes, I hear you," she whispered, her voice trembling, cracking. The dog pressed against her leg, its amber eyes shining with unyielding determination. Emma's fingers dug into the handle of the old door. She pulled, pushing with all the strength she could muster, but the rusted hinges protested with a shrill screech, refusing to give way. Frustration and fear surged through her. "Come on, Noah, hold on," she pleaded. The dog growled again, louder this time, and began to dig at the ground around the door, scattering leaves and dirt. Emma felt a spark of hope. Together they could do this. Suddenly voices pierced the forest, distant but urgent. "We're here, sheriff's deputies," one shouted. Relief and panic collided in her chest. Backup had arrived, but every second felt like an eternity. She could see flashes of uniforms moving through the trees. The man, the one who had taken Noah, had not yet been caught. He was still somewhere in the woods, and the thought of him discovering her or harming her son made Emma's stomach twist violently. The dog let out a sharp, commanding bark. Emma understood. Move now. She shifted her weight and pressed harder against the door. Another thump sounded from inside, louder, desperate. Emma's hands were raw, dirt and splinters scraping her palms, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. Her son's voice, fragile, terrified, called to her in the rhythm of those muffled thumps. Finally, with a final, bone-jarring effort, the door groaned and began to lift. Emma's heart nearly leaped out of her chest. Light from the forest spilled into the darkness below as the hinges gave way, rust flacking to the ground. She peered inside, flashlight in hand, and saw the small figure curled in the corner. "Noah," she cried, tears streaming freely. She dropped to her knees, reaching into the shelter. Her son's eyes, wide with fear and relief, met hers. "Mom," he whispered, voice cracking. Emma pulled him close, pressing him to her chest, stroking his hair, whispering frantic reassurances. But the relief was short-lived. Behind them the dog stiffened, hackles raised, growling low. Emma turned her head, heart sinking. A shadow moved near the edge of the clearing. The man had returned, stepping through the trees with a gun raised, eyes wild with fury. Emma's chest tightened as adrenaline surged. "Noah, stay down," she shouted, holding him close. The dog leapt forward, placing itself between them and the intruder, its growl deep, threatening. The man cursed, pulling the trigger. A deafening shot rang out. The dog yelped, recoiling slightly, but it didn't back down. Emma's vision blurred with tears and fear. Her son whimpered, clutching her tightly as the man stumbled back, startled by the dog's ferocity. Sheriff Nolan and deputies arrived, sprinting through the underbrush. "Drop the weapon," one shouted. The man cursed, backing away, finally realizing he was outnumbered and outmaneuvered. Emma pressed herself to Noah as deputies moved in, securing the man. Emma's hands shook as she stroked the dog's matted fur, whispering frantic reassurances. It limped slightly, but it was alive, the guardian that had led her here, that had saved her son. Then a deputy called from the shelter. "Sheriff, you need to see this now." His tone was different, terrified, urgent. Emma's pulse jumped. She clutched Noah tighter, her mind racing. Something else was inside the shelter, something she hadn't expected, something that could change everything. The forest felt darker, colder, as if holding its breath. Emma realized, with a shiver crawling up her spine, that finding Noah was only the beginning. And what they were about to discover would leave them all pale. Emma's knees were pressed into the cold forest floor, Noah trembling in her arms, the dog standing rigid before them. The shadowed figure of the man emerged from behind a cluster of pine trees, gun glinting in the dappled sunlight. His face was twisted with rage, eyes bloodshot, teeth clenched as he realized he had been discovered. Every instinct in Emma screamed danger, raw, undeniable, unavoidable. "Step back," Sheriff Nolan barked, sprinting toward the clearing with 2 deputies flanking him. "Drop the weapon." The man's laugh was low, cruel, almost hysterical. "You weren't supposed to find him, you weren't supposed to interfere." He took a deliberate step forward, raising his gun toward Emma and Noah. Her heart froze. The dog let out a terrifying growl, hackles raised, teeth bared, its stance protective and defiant. Emma clutched Noah tighter, whispering, "Stay behind me, stay with me, baby." Time slowed, the forest seemed to contract around them, the silence pierced only by the man's ragged breathing and the dog's warning growls. Deputies raised their weapons, but the man moved unpredictably, swaying, scanning the shadows for an opening. A shot rang out, the dog yelped, jerking sideways, but it refused to flee. Emma's stomach twisted in terror. Blood streaked through the dog's fur where the bullet grazed its shoulder, yet it stayed, refusing to abandon her or Noah. The man cursed and tried to advance, gun trembling in his hands. "You don't understand, you'll never stop us." "Back off," Sheriff Nolan shouted, stepping between Emma and the man. "It's over, it's done, drop it now." The man's finger tightened on the trigger. Emma squeezed Noah instinctively, her nails digging into his small back. Her heart thudded violently as adrenaline surged through her veins. She could hear the rapid staccato of her own heartbeat echoing in her ears. The dog lunged at the man, barking with a ferocity Emma had never imagined. Its amber eyes blazed, teeth snapping dangerously close. The man stumbled backward, startled, and lost his balance on the uneven forest floor. Emma realized in that instant that the dog had bought her precious seconds, the moments she needed to act. Deputies closed in, firing warning shots into the air. The man tripped over a root, gun clattering to the ground. Emma's knees buckled. She dropped to the ground, holding Noah close, tears streaming down her face. The dog limped toward her, growling softly but still standing tall. Emma stroked its matted fur, whispering through her sobs, you saved us both." The deputies finally restrained the man, handcuffing him and dragging him back toward the forest edge. His eyes never left Emma and Noah, wild with fury, desperate and unhinged. Sheriff Nolan placed a firm hand on Emma's shoulder, trying to steady her trembling form. "He's caught," he said, voice low but reassuring. "You're safe now." But Emma's relief was tempered by the gnawing sense of dread that crept through her chest. She glanced at the storm shelter, still open, and the dirt-streaked walls. She had seen the glint of something inside, Polaroids, maps, evidence of something far more sinister than she had imagined, something that hinted at organized cruelty. Noah clung to her, shivering, whispering, "Mom, the dog, he fought him. He tried to protect me." Emma swallowed, choking back tears. Yes, baby, he was our hero." Her gaze fell on the stray dog, bleeding slightly but alive, trembling but loyal. She stroked its fur, marveling at the courage of this creature that had appeared at the right moment, guiding her through terror. And then a deputy's voice cut through the forest, sharp, urgent. "Sheriff, you need to see this, down in the shelter." Emma's stomach dropped. She looked back at the dark opening in the earth. Fear flared again, sharper, colder. Something else was down there, something she hadn't expected. The man was restrained, the dog limping but alive, and Noah in her arms, yet the terror wasn't over. The forest seemed to close in, shadows shifting, the air thick with unsaid threats. Emma realized with a chilling clarity that what had begun as a frantic search for her son was only the beginning. There were layers to this horror, and the truth they were about to uncover would shake them all to the core. The dog whimpered softly, glancing at the shelter, and Emma knew what it was trying to tell her. There was more, something beneath the earth was waiting. Emma's arms trembled as she held Noah close, his tiny body pressed against hers, shivering from cold, fear, and shock. The forest was eerily quiet now, punctuated only by the distant murmur of deputies securing the gunman and the faint, labored breathing of the dog, its matted fur streaked with blood and mud. Relief and terror collided inside her, relief that Noah was alive, terror at the unknown that still lurked beneath the storm shelter's heavy, rusted door. A deputy's voice rang out from the edge of the shelter. "Sheriff, you need to see this now." Emma's stomach dropped. She had thought that pulling Noah out of the shelter had ended the nightmare, but the urgency in the deputy's tone suggested otherwise. Clutching Noah tighter, she followed, each step heavy, her boots sinking slightly into the wet forest floor. Inside the shelter, the scene was almost unbearable. The small space smelled of damp earth, mold, and fear. Flashlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the walls lined with something that made Emma's blood run cold. Polaroid photos, hundreds of them pinned in careful rows. Children, all different ages, all terrified. Some were smiling, but their eyes told a different story, eyes wide with panic, pleading, trapped. Emma's breath caught, her hands tightened around Noah's jacket. In the center of the wall, a large, crudely drawn map of Willow Creek and the surrounding county was pinned. Dates, names, and cryptic symbols were scrawled across it. Emma realized with a sickening certainty that the man wasn't acting alone. He had a network, a plan that stretched far beyond this forest, beyond Noah. Sheriff Nolan stepped closer, face pale and strained. This is bigger than we thought, he muttered. It's organized, multiple victims, years of planning, the patterns, the locations, all coordinated. Emma's stomach twisted violently. Her son had been just one of many. Her mind flashed back to the brief sight of the man dragging the tarp, the way he had whispered about moving someone before nightfall. The forest wasn't just hiding Noah, it was hiding the full scale of his crimes. Noah clung to her, whispering, "Mom, the dog." He tried to stop him. Emma swallowed hard, tears brimming. "Yes, baby, he did. He was so brave, he saved you." She glanced down at the injured stray, still limping but standing proudly beside them. The dog's amber eyes held a strange wisdom, as if it knew exactly what they had uncovered and what dangers still lingered. A deputy knelt, picking up a Polaroid from the ground. He turned it over, revealing a single, handwritten message. "We know you found him." Emma's blood ran cold. The words were recent, written in ink still faintly wet. Someone had been in the shelter after Noah was taken. Someone had been watching them, tracking every step. The forest seemed to grow darker, the shadows pressing closer, the wind whispering through the trees like a warning. Emma realized with icy certainty that the threat wasn't gone. The gunman had been captured, but the operation, whoever had orchestrated it, was still active, still out there, and now they knew that the Davis family had survived. Sheriff Nolan placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "We'll protect you, we'll uncover the rest, but we need to act fast. Every second counts." Emma's gaze drifted to Noah, sleeping lightly against her chest now, exhausted but safe for the moment. Then she looked at the dog, bleeding, tired but alert. Her heart swelled with fierce gratitude. This creature, a stranger, a guardian, had led them through terror and darkness. But the chilling truth lingered in the air, unspoken yet undeniable. Finding Noah was only the beginning. The forest had secrets, and the full horror of what lay hidden beneath the earth had yet to be revealed. Emma knelt, brushing a lock of hair from Noah's face, whispering, "We're safe for now, but we'll fight, we'll find them all." The dog whined softly, nudging her hand with its nose, as if to say, "We aren't done yet." Emma shivered, realizing the full weight of the moment. The man had been captured, yes, Noah was safe, but a network, hidden and calculating, was still out there, watching, planning, waiting. And in the shadows of the forest, Emma could feel it. The nightmare was far from over. Her amber-eyed guardian looked up at her once more, wounded but resolute, and Emma understood their fight was just beginning. The real enemy was still out there. The forest was alive with sirens now, the night air vibrating with urgency as backup units swarmed the clearing. Emma held Noah tightly, his small arms wrapped around her neck, while the stray dog limped beside her, bleeding but proud, its amber eyes alert and unyielding. Every heartbeat echoed in her chest. The gunman was restrained, deputies were securing evidence, but Emma knew the fight was far from over. Something still lurked beyond the trees, watching, waiting. Sheriff Nolan placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "We'll protect you," he said, voice low but resolute. "We'll uncover the rest of this operation, but we need to move quickly. The network might still be active." Emma nodded, clutching Noah. She glanced at the dog, wounded yet steadfast, and whispered, "You saved him. You saved us." The dog let out a faint whine, nudging her hand, as if acknowledging her words and silently urging her to stay vigilant. Hours later, Emma and Noah arrived home, the familiar lights of their modest Willow Creek house a fragile comfort after the chaos of the forest. She carried him inside, brushing the dirt from his hair, holding him as if she could shield him from every danger in the world. The dog followed slowly, limping but determined, stepping over the threshold as though it had always belonged there. Noah's eyes widened as he pointed toward the window where the tapping had always started. "Mom," he whispered, voice small but certain. "That dog, he was there the night I got taken. He tried to stop the bad man. He barked, he bit his arm, he was scared of the dog. He was trying to help me the whole time." Emma's throat tightened. She sank to her knees, pulling Noah onto her lap, letting the weight of his words settle. She realized what had been true all along. The dog hadn't been a stray wandering aimlessly. It was a guardian, a sentinel that had led her through terror, guided her to her son, and protected them when no human could. The dog nudged Noah gently with its nose, licking his hand. Emma smiled weakly through tears. "You saved our lives," she whispered. "We owe you everything." Noah hugged the dog tightly, whispering thanks in his soft, trembling voice. But as Emma stood to close the blinds, her eyes fell on the driveway. The ground was freshly disturbed, a faint imprint of footprints leading toward the forest. Her heart sank. The network had not been fully dismantled. Someone had been watching, someone who now knew the Davis family was safe for the moment. Emma glanced at the dog. Its amber eyes met hers, and in that silent exchange she understood. This was no ordinary animal. This was a sentinel that had not only saved her son but would remain vigilant as long as danger lurked in the shadows. The sheriff arrived a short while later with a briefing. The man we captured was part of a larger network. We're investigating all leads. We've secured the shelter and the surrounding forest, but there's more. Whoever orchestrated this is careful, calculated, and still out there. Emma held Noah closer, feeling the weight of fear and relief crashing through her simultaneously. She knew the coming days would be tense, uncertain, but she also knew one immutable truth. They had a protector who had guided them through darkness, and that gave them a fighting chance. That night, Emma tucked Noah into bed, the dog curling up at the foot of his small mattress. She traced her fingers over his face, whispering a promise. "Noah will be ready. Nothing will take you from me again." Outside, the amber eyes of their guardian glinted faintly in the moonlight streaming through the window. The forest beyond remained silent, ominous, hiding secrets Emma dared not yet confront. Somewhere, the network lay dormant, observing, planning, waiting. But for now, they had survived. And Emma understood in a quiet, unwavering certainty that the dog's courage had not only saved her son, it had revealed a truth about the world. Vigilance, loyalty, and bravery can come from the most unexpected places. Yet the shadow of fear lingered. Someone somewhere had witnessed their survival. Someone would return, and when they did, Emma and her son would not be caught unprepared again. The dog lifted its head, amber eyes gleaming in the dim light, as if acknowledging that the story was far from over. It had led them out of the forest once, and it would lead them through whatever came next. The enemy was still out there, but now they were no longer alone.